Harry Potter and the AI Adventure. Chapter 8. Ron had gotten himself captured. Again, after the battle in Diagon Alley with you-know-who, his best friends and fellow Gryffindors had gone out to try and save his life, but hadn't quite managed to catch him until it was too late. In the fight, they'd lost track of him, and somehow managed to get themselves involved. "Where's he got to?" cried Fred, frantically scanning the rooftops. George nodded in agreement. "Maybe he went back home to wait out the battle or something," exclaimed Ron hopefully. "Wait, Ron, what are you here?" George cried out, pointing at Ron's arm, which was hanging limply down by his side. "We need to find him quickly, Fred. What if he goes to get Hermione? She could die, and I promised her that she wouldn't have to be rescued anymore because of us," Ron insisted desperately. George looked at Ron, confused by his odd behavior. He had gone mad. Then it finally registered. "You idiot!" He cried out at the same time that Hermione yelled, "Ron, don't you dare!" But it was too late. Just as Hermione finished speaking, Ron's body began to levitate up above the street. The rest followed suit, until all of them had lifted up a foot off the ground. "I don't believe this," George muttered. "Don't panic. I've got this under control," Ron mumbled to himself, clearly unsure what to do with his magic. Suddenly all four of them were dropped onto the street floor, causing a loud thud. Hermione's eyes widened upon seeing the four of them standing on top of each other, while Ron lay sprawled out on the pavement. "Are you all right?" Hermione shouted, immediately rushing towards Ron, placing a hand on his shoulder as she bent over him concerned. Ron groaned, slowly sitting upright. He placed his hand gently on the side of his face, feeling how badly he was bleeding. "What are you doing?" Hermione snapped in anger. "Get up. We've got to get moving. We have to rescue Hermione. It was stupid to stay here. Come on, we've got a war to win," Hermione said. All Ron could manage was to nod silently. He felt like he was dead. Hermione helped him sit up. She turned to the others. "Fred, George, get up. We're going. We have to rescue Hermione." They nodded and stood up shakily. They followed Hermione and Ron towards the edge of the street, looking up into the sky. It was pitch black. There was only one source of light, coming from a nearby street lamp. Hermione walked over to the nearest telephone box that was located across from them and dialed the number of an old friend. It rang 7 times before someone picked up. "Hello?" the voice answered, sounding exhausted. "Molly," Hermione exclaimed, hearing Ron's mother on the other side. "We need help. Please, Molly. Can you come and get us?" she asked frantically. "Of course, dear. I'll be right over," answered Molly happily, before she hung up the phone. She quickly called another number. It rang once before a sleepy voice sounded on the other end. "Hello," said the woman sleepily. "Hi, Mum. It's me," said Molly cheerfully. "Did you have fun at work today?" asked Mrs. Weasley curiously. "Of course I did," answered Molly happily. "That's wonderful, darling. Now I just need to wake Harry, Ginny, and Severus. They need some coffee, and I am certain that they could use a nap after their adventure." "Oh, dear. Innes's," Weasley continued. "How about you join them for breakfast? If you hurry, you can be downstairs in time." Molly paused. "No, I must stay at work. There are more important things to discuss than breakfast," she said sternly. "I'll bring it up then, darling," responded Mrs. Weasley happily. She hung up. "Good morning, girls. How was your holiday?" "Was everything nice?" she asked excitedly. "Yes, Mummy. We had lots of fun," Ginny replied enthusiastically. "And we even stayed in a hotel and ate bacon pancakes. Isn't that exciting?" she added. Mrs. Weasley laughed. "Well, yes, it sounds great," she agreed. "Now then, shall we go into the kitchen, get ready for school?" asked Molly happily. As they reached the kitchen, they saw Minerva walking around the kitchen, making toast and brewing tea. "Good morning, Mrs. Weasley. Miss Weasley, want some tea?" McGonagall asked, as she poured cups of water. "Yes, thank you, Professor," Molly answered politely, taking a cup and sitting herself at the table beside Ginny, who handed over her teacup. Other 3 took their seat in front of the fireplace and began to speak. "Ginny, what would you like for breakfast, Mrs. Weasley?" wondered kindly. Scrambled eggs and orange juice, please," Ginny replied shyly. "All right, sweetheart," Molly said, beginning to pour some food onto Ginny's plate. "I'm not hungry, thanks though," Ginny said hesitantly. "Oh, well, if you change your mind," Molly said, pausing momentarily before continuing. "I'm sure that Severus would love to eat with you." "Yeah," Ginny agreed. "He's always been good at cooking." "Really?" "Yes, Snape's a great cook," Ginny revealed. "So how's the baby?" Molly asked Ginny, excited for grandchildren. She's lovely. Ginny smiled brightly. Do you think that I could give the firstborn some of my honey? That will be wonderful, smiled Molly brightly. Thank you very much, Ginny. Ginny smiled. Anything to help you too. She giggled. It really is wonderful to see that you both care so much for each other. I remember when we were all young, said Molly softly. I agree, answered Snape. You seem like a decent sort, Hagrid. I know that you won't cheat us, but I also know that you are not the brightest person. This may be the last chance we get to talk to someone intelligent. So trust me when I tell you that I have nothing against you whatsoever. If I wanted to kill you, I would have done so already. I understand, sir, Hagrid replied. Please follow me back to the house then, Snape said quietly, walking ahead of Hagrid and leaving the Weasley residence. Who's that? Asked Hagrid quietly as they approached Dumbledore's office. That is Severus Snape, our new head of house, answered Ginny calmly. Why haven't I met him? Asked Hagrid in shock. Because we didn't want any trouble, explained Ginny. Not after what happened during Voldemort's attack, she finished sadly, remembering the battle, the killing, and the destruction of Hogwarts. But he seems okay, commented Hagrid quietly, watching the potions professor walk past him with his head held high. Followed behind, careful not to touch the doorframe, because he knew that Snape wouldn't appreciate the damage. What makes you think he is okay? Napped Ginny irritably. Oh, come off it, girl. He just doesn't seem like such a bad bloke. Ginny stared angrily at him for a moment. There is no reason for you to think that, she said, before stepping through the portrait hole. Hagrid watched her disappear inside and he frowned, not understanding the animosity towards their new teacher. After a moment's hesitation, he followed her inside. He stopped suddenly as he realized where they had gone. The office was destroyed. A fire burned brightly in the fireplace, and there wasn't a single piece of furniture left standing. The bookshelves were torn apart and scattered everywhere. A huge scorch mark covered almost every surface. His heart sank. Damn, he whispered. This couldn't be happening. They just couldn't have lost everyone. Not without a fight. Hagrid looked around for the source of the destruction and noticed Snape standing near the fireplace, still dressed in his robe. Mr. Snape, he said cautiously. What happened here? He demanded. Someone tried to destroy this office. He told Hagrid flatly. I am afraid they succeeded. Hagrid looked at the floor. Couldn't believe this. Everyone's possessions were destroyed, and nobody could tell anyone what had happened. Are you all right, Mr. Hagrid? Asked Snape softly. Hagrid didn't answer as he looked around at the destroyed room again. Hey, you are upset by something, said Snape with a sigh. Well, to be honest, I am too. What will happen to us? He asked. I don't know, Mr. Hagrid, but we will make do until we find someone else to take charge, Snape replied quietly. Where is everyone? Asked Hagrid confusedly. We are in the hospital wing, Mr. Hagrid, answered Madame Pomfrey kindly. But why am I the only one here? Asked Hagrid looking around. Everyone is busy attending to those injured from the explosion, replied Madame Pomfrey. I am sorry, Mr. Hagrid, but it looks as if there aren't going to be enough beds for everyone. Hagrid roared with confused anger, ripping open a curtain which revealed a dark room with tubes. It harboured several clones of Hagrid. Wah! Hagrid dutted. It's Dumbledore's clone factory, Madame Pomfrey said sorrowfully, as she pointed to several of them. All of them have been turned into clones, she stated sadly. Can you fix them? Asked Hagrid anxiously, clutching tightly onto Hermione. He felt like crying. His entire world had shattered before his eyes.